Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. This is what the future looks like. This is, again, countries that have given up their rights to bear arms, countries like China, Australia. This is what you're going to see in America eventually. And they're using psychological operations to convince people that this is in their best interest. So they talk about things about suicide. They talk about things about people's feelings. This gets people to emotionally invest in this stuff. This gets people to want these things passed to protect themselves and to protect their loved ones and to protect innocent people. Instead of training and teaching people how to be tough, how to stand up for themselves, the government has obviously done the opposite over the last 20 years or so. In fact, so much so that people turn to Big Brother to help them out and bail them out instead of them defending themselves. This is what they tell you. They tell you that these things that they're doing are to deter people from bad behavior. Behavior. That's the key word. The behavior they're trying to control is yours and mine. And what they're trying to really control isn't protecting people from being bullied. It's to control speech so that the government can no longer be questioned. This is what the nightmare looks like in Australia. Listen to the words about what you can and cannot post online. Having a passport to speak online. This is what I talk about with the digital ID and the mark of the beast. When the mark of the beast talks about not being able to buy or sell, it's talking about, in my opinion, not being able to buy or sell without having a digital identity, because everything is going to be done online in the hive mind, www.666, and all speech will be controlled on the internet. They're making people want this. They're telling people all these stories that they make up about how people are hurting themselves, how people are depressed. They're making these things up, even though there is some truth to it. They're making people want a digital ID so people are held accountable. The story with Alex Jones ties into this because listen to this story. You will be held in court. You will be sued. You have the right to have all these things happen to you if you post something online, of course, that the government doesn't agree with. The police will have full access to your online passport and everything you say on the internet. This is the future in all countries. This is what the government is planning. This is what global New World Order dictatorship looks like.
A radical plan to crack down on social media abuse is being considered by the federal government. For more, Nine's Oliver Haig joins us live in Adelaide. Ollie, how will it work?
Layla, good morning. Essentially, it will work the same as a passport. Australians forced to submit 100 points of identification like their driver's licence or passport when using social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. Now, police would have access to those social media accounts, and it's all part of a crackdown on online abuse. Now, users could be liable for defamation suits or even criminal prosecution, and it's all part of a plan hoping to deter people from engaging in bad behaviour. Now, the recommendations were handed down by a federal parliamentary inquiry. They're reforms that are being considered by the Morrison government, with the chairman saying there is merit to remove the veil of being anonymous. Layla?
So listen to some of the things that were mentioned in there. Think about how they're trying to control behavior, right? They want to deter people from bad behavior. This is about behavioral control. BlackRock, who owns everything, Larry Fink has talked about, and I've shown that clip many times, talking about at BlackRock, we control behaviors. Well, guess what? BlackRock, Vanguard, these big corporations own everything. And they are not only trying to engineer your behavior, they're going to control your behavior because they're going to make it so much so that you hold back from saying how you feel. You don't say things that you want to say anymore. When you're suspicious of the government's activity, you're not going to question it because you're going to be afraid. Your behavior is going to be held under control. You're going to be afraid to ask questions. You're going to be afraid to criticize Big Brother. And that's what this is really about. But they use these stories to prey on the weak-minded, the feeble, the crybabies, who can't stick up for themselves, who don't, who let words hurt their feelings, right? We've gotten to the point, I've talked about the N-word, all these words that they've gaslit people with. Instead of saying, you know what, it's just a word. Well, if somebody says something to you that you don't like, well, defend yourself. If somebody says, well, walks up to you, if a white guy walks up to a black person and uses a word like that, I'd fully expect the black person to hit the white person, right? I'd fully expect them to say something back, but they don't want you to act in that way. They want you to say, the person who said that word should be thrown in jail. I should be able to sue him in court for hurting my feelings. And everybody's falling for this stuff hook, line, and sinker based on gender, based on color, based on sexual preference. This is done by design. Now, this next clip I'm going to play for you is from Michael Miller, okay, of News Corp Australia, the executive chairman. Listen to what he says about tech giants, how they must abide by the law. This is all fabricated, okay? This is to control you. It's not to control big tech. They talk about, oh, well, big tech, as far as they're concerned, bad behavior is good for business. It's good for views. And everybody out there knows that this is bullcrap. Everybody with a brain. Okay, big tech has been censoring everybody for a long time. And they're not censoring stuff in regards to, somebody calling somebody a word or things like that. They're censoring us. They're censoring people out there that are calling out the government, how they're in bed with big tech, how it's one and the same. They're calling out global communism. That's what they're censoring. Right? Big tech isn't actually, promoting bad behavior. They're canceling you if you speak out against them. So listen to this guy and listen to how the things that he says in this speech in Australia at the National Press Club of Australia. These are the things that they use to manipulate people, because people hear this and don't think about the bigger picture and think about the secret government and what they're really doing. They just think about their own feelings. And they're like, well, because normal people, you do feel, you do feel bad for people when they get picked on, etc. You don't want to see people's feelings, or you don't want to see kids harm themselves, of course. And these wicked people prey off of that. They create these fabrications, just like all the events that happen at schools. They don't expect you to question it. They just expect you to accept the story they tell you, because they know that you're going to be very emotionally tied to it, because nobody wants to hear a story like that ever happen. They don't expect you to question it. In fact, if you do question it, they want those same people who are emotionally attached to the story to come after you. Listen to the words used in this. And again, this is about them controlling you, monitoring you, and imprisoning you for speaking against tyrants like Michael Miller.
In the words of Cybersecurity Minister Claire O'Neill, just about every problem that we have as a country is either being exacerbated by or caused by social media. And we're not seeing a skerrick of responsibility taken by these companies. And why is this happening? Because on social media, bad behaviour is good for business. The social media giants, they profit from evil videos. They profit from bullying. They profit from online con artists. They profit from glamorising eating disorders. In the words of a British father who, like Wayne, lost their child to suicide, they monetise misery. In Meta's case, according to a recent report in the UK's Sunday Times magazine, that profit is a staggering $136 million every single day. It's understandable that we focus on the content that is causing the harm, but the other truly damaging aspect of all this is the partnership between the content and the conduct of the businesses that distribute it. The content and the conduct are partners in crime. We know this is the case from Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen. She says that Facebook knew its algorithms were damaging teenagers' mental health. It knew that posts instigated ethnic violence in countries like Ethiopia, and it failed to curb misinformation before the Capitol Hill riots on January 6. Around the world, people are demanding that the days of the digital Wild West have to stop. The algorithms and those that operate them in total secrecy are the biggest villains. It's time we made them accountable. Australia was one of the first countries to be disrupted by the online revolution, and media was one of the first industries. Australian companies like car sales and realestate.com were among the first in the world to break out from print channels and onto the internet. News companies pushed into the digital space. We took on the challenge. We innovated. With Meta's decision to walk away from its deals to pay Australian news companies for their content, our industry is in new territory once again. Media may be a business, but remember, journalism is vital to democracy. It ensures that citizens are informed, engaged, and capable of holding their leaders to account. Without a local news media, transparency, accountability, and public participation, the founding principles of democracy are significantly weakened. The ACCC has ruled that for media companies, Meta is an unavoidable trading partner. And in 2021, Parliament determined that Meta should pay for the news it uses. We had a deal. They walked away. I believe they have an obligation to renew the agreements and honour our laws.
So this is what the future holds. This is what we're all warning about. And right now, it might cater to certain groups. It might cater to the LGBT, even though they feel like they're oppressed. Don't ask me how. It might cater to them where they hear this stuff and they go, this is what we need. This is exactly what we need. We need these types of things online because they can't handle getting trolled, even though they're the ones who are doing most of the trolling. They're the ones who are doing all of the canceling, right? They don't realize that once this stuff is in place, once we allow the government to put this in place, they will turn on them immediately. Even though most of these people in government, like Michael Miller, love to ride the Hershey Highway, there is little to no doubt that they couldn't care less about anybody, including the LGBT, all of them. They don't care about any of us. They're using you and they're using all people who are weak-minded to get the rules in place that they want to protect them. So then there's not only no voting these people out because your vote doesn't count, there's no speaking out against these people. In fact, there's no pointing out what these people are really doing. And that's really key, the word pointing out. Because what we're all trying to do is point out what's really happening. They don't want you to be able to point it out. In fact, that's hate speech. Those are the types of things that are dangerous, right? Because that's what this ends up filtering down to, right? So look at it from this perspective. You have this passport. So you can only post online with this passport, which means everything you say online, you're held accountable for. Now, some of you might say, well, that's fine. That should be the way it is. That should not be the way that it is, okay? If somebody trolls you online, you just ignore it. It's not a big deal. But people are getting convinced that it is a good thing, right? They don't realize that what it's really about is people like me who are anonymous are no longer going to be able to be anonymous. And then all of a sudden, these precedents that are put in place with Alex Jones end up going to people like me and you, where now we can't post and share articles or any of this stuff. Why? Well, people out there right now would say, it's not about you. It's about going after those young kids who are getting bullied because of their gender, etc. It's about me and you. That's what this is about. Because the next thing that comes out of this is they start talking about when people like me and you are questioning the government, it leads to insurrections. It leads to all these events that occur that are really false flags, right? And they'll start saying that that's terror speech. That's danger speech because they're questioning the government. And that's making people think all these bad things about the government. And then these people are acting on it. So then they'll want to be able to persecute all of us and prosecute all of us. And not just prosecute us to take money away that we don't have, to imprison us. That's what the digital ID is. That's what this passport is. That's what I warn about. People just hear the digital ID and all this type of stuff with online IDs and they think to themselves, well, what's the big deal? I have a license in my wallet. Oh, okay. And then when I have to do something online, sometimes I do have to put my license in. So what's the difference? They don't seem to understand that your every word in this hive mind that is the internet is going to be tracked and monitored. And they go, it doesn't matter to me. Because right now, the common person isn't affected like me and you are. They're not being censored. The common person who's a Democrat is definitely not being censored. In fact, they're being promoted. But eventually, when the government continues to turn on them and enslave them more and tell them, hey, all these people that we empowered, all these young kids, and they like to sit home and play video games. So now, all of a sudden, we're not going to let them play video games for 24 hours a day. They can only play for 12. And little things, little by little, they start coming out and say, hey, I don't like what the government's doing here. Why are they doing this? Oopsies. Oh, they're going to show up at your door. And they're going to say, why are you questioning us? That's dangerous, And I know right now, those people can't see where this is headed. And they look at it as if it's this big, giant leap. But this is what the blueprint has been for global communism. And it's not a giant leap. It is factual. Look at the way the world works in China, because that's what the New World Order looks like. It is a living hell. It is literally like Pleasantville. You look at these people over there who are brain dead, and they tell you, I went to go on a plane to go visit my mom, but I couldn't get on the plane. The police stopped me, and they shut my bank account off. Why? Well, I was questioning what the government was doing in regards to the climate or something else, right? And they smile about it and they go, I guess in the future I won't question it again because I want to go see my mom. Instead of saying, this is insane, this is hell. In fact, I've talked about over the years, most people, I bring it up to people in the streets, I don't know that I'm in the streets, but I bring it up to people that I come across. They have no idea about the social credit score. No idea. And I tell them what it is, and they're like, they don't even know how to comprehend what it is. I try to explain it. It's just like you've been conditioned with a credit score, right? Oh, you got a 700 credit score? Oh, you can get this credit card or that credit card, or you could get a mortgage. Oh, okay. Well, that's based on what? Your behavior. They say, well, look, look, they pay their credit card on time. They pay all their bills. Okay, you have a good credit score. Okay. Well, your social credit score is based on your behavior. So if you're a nice person, and by nice, it means you don't question the government. Okay. When the government punches you in the balls and you smile back at them, your credit score goes up. When the government comes to your door and tasers you and you just go, give me another, your credit score goes up. But when you suddenly question the government, your credit score goes down. And when your credit score is down, then suddenly you can't access your bank account. Suddenly your electricity is turned off. This is what they do in China. That's what a social credit score is. But the problem that people have with wrapping their head around this is that they think that it's not going to affect them. They look at it and they go, I'm a good person. I don't do anything wrong. And that might be true. They might be a good person. But this will have nothing to do with even your political views on LGBT. All these things are going to change because when they continue to take little by little and they implement the carbon footprint, even the most liberal people are going to be upset about it because they're going to go, well, it's 100 degrees here today. I want the air on. They're going to go, no. Then they're going to start going, this is ridiculous. I'm sweating my ass off here. I need to get come on, man. And they're going to go ding dong, they're at your front door. They're going to go, what? And they're going to go, did you just complain? Because we heard you on your Alexa that you were complaining that you were hot. And you complained about us and you said that there's a problem. Come with us, please. And that's how this is going to look. And it sounds like a leap, but it's not. It is not. And they're pushing harder than ever because they're starting to see, the division that they're causing is working, right? They're causing all this division. We've never seen division like this, especially in America, between Democrats and Republicans. They're starting to see, though, that there are awakenings happening on the side where people are actually questioning Trump. They're questioning Alex Jones. They're questioning these certain people that they're putting in prominent positions to lead the flock in a certain direction, right? They're moving faster with their censorship because they don't want people like me and you to start some type of organic movement against their tyranny. And that's what it's about. So this is hell on earth. This is Australia. And again, people go, well, it won't be like that here in America. This is what a society that gives up their rights looks like. Australia, China. Do you not see the United States of America giving up their rights willingly, giving up their right? They're trying to get us to give up our right to bear arms. We have civilians who, based on all these false flag events, want us to give up our guns because they could never think that the government would do this unless they think of the opposite political party. And that's another thing I try to tell people to keep in mind. Just imagine if you're a Democrat that it's Trump in charge, refusing to leave office. Would you want to be armed then? Yes. Okay, good. Because the left and right are working together. And if we could all just get past this, okay, if we all could just get out of the hive mind, then maybe something could be done about it. Maybe it could slow their plans down. But most people don't seem to want to slow their plans down. Most people just want this to occur. I mean, a lot of Christians out there comment, and they're like, this is all biblical. Yeah, it's biblical. But nowhere in the Bible does God say, hey, I want you to bend over and allow him to do it. Because we don't know what time period this is. This has happened many times over, where tyrannical governments have started to rule and reign. And I'm sure the people at the time were like, God's coming very, very soon. But the people rose up against it and stopped it from happening. So this mindset of bending over is not biblical. Does it mean that we can stop what they're doing? Well, maybe we can stop what they're doing. Maybe it's for another time period that it's going to happen. Right? I mean, Rome, you can look at all history, all things that we at least believe have happened in history. This is what they've been trying to set up. And people have risen up against it. Now with the technology that's in place and the dumbing down is just out of control, it's very hard to see any of this actually not happening because you look around and it's pretty hopeless, especially with the cancel culture and these empowered young people out there who are not only they're empowered, they think that they know what's going on. They have 0%. They understand 0% of what's happening in the world. Not 1%, not 10%, 0%. They're living in a simulated reality. They believe everything on the news. They're herded so easily. They're manipulated so easily. So it's very hard to see us actually stopping this from occurring. But I also don't believe that we're supposed to bend over and just be like, hey, here are our rights. Okay, I hope the trumpets sound tomorrow. Hope I hear the trumpet soon. I'm going to bend over for them. Right? I mean, we got to go down with a fight at least. And the fight would just be getting basic knowledge out to people so that they understand by canceling each other, by wanting things like this. The people out there who see this, what's going on in Australia, and think it's a good idea, are you out of your mind? You out of your mind? But they don't see further ahead. They just think they're like, I don't go online and torment young teens, so we do need something like this. All right, but they have no perspective of themselves. No self-awareness. They never think once that they've commented negatively to somebody online under a video and been like, you're an idiot, you're crazy. Of course they have. They just forget about that because they just live in they have tunnel vision. So they forget about things that they've said that might have been critical of somebody else. So they go, let's get these things in place. Then suddenly they're online and they try to post something and it gets blocked. Suddenly the police show up at their door and like, what am I doing wrong? Oh, you criticize who? I criticize this person. I didn't like what they were saying about the LGB. Oh, well, guess what? That's our new view on the LGB. Oh, it is? Yeah. So don't criticize it. Or, and they're going to go, how did we get to this point? Oh, right. By surrendering your rights to tyrants, right? By telling people we need a digital ID and we need an online passport and that the police can monitor what we say online and you can't be anonymous anymore. And that's really what it's about, not being anonymous anymore. And then it gets to that point. There aren't people like me anymore because I'm not going along with this. I know what the future holds for people once this stuff is in place for people like us, and it is to get rid of people like us. And then other people who try to speak, they'll hold them accountable for the things that they say online, but they'll already be too far gone because they'll have the digital ID. So you can't go along with this stuff. That doesn't mean that there won't be ways to manipulate the system either. I mean, I've been manipulating the system for a long time. The system that they have in place here online. I'm sure there'll be ways around it temporarily, of course, until once everything's embedded genetically, that'll be a little bit of a different story. But this is what hell on earth looks like. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Anybody out there that sees that in Australia and thinks it's a good idea and it's going to protect people, they're out of their mind. And they're only looking at it with tunnel vision. And they're not even thinking of themselves and what they might say that the government may critique. They're just immediately going, no, we need that because somebody might have hurt themselves because somebody's called them fat on the internet. And they think that that's what the government's trying to protect. Like the government cares about somebody's feelings. They talk to you like toddlers because they've trained you to be toddlers instead of men acting like men and women acting like women. And that's why we're in the position we're in. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.